This recording is looking at an extract-based question, looking at Twelfth Night Act 3 Scene 2, and it's the section where Sir Toby and Fabian are trying to talk Sir Andrew out of leaving and into challenging Cesario to a duel for Olivia's affection. Okay, if we look through, you can see that I've already put some annotation on it, and I'm just going to kind of talk through some ideas. And the question with this, which has appeared on the Cambridge IGCSE syllabus before now, which is how does Shakespeare make this such an entertaining moment? And obviously with any extract, if you're given a question which has got a particular way in, you're looking at the extract through that key idea or keyword. So we're looking here at, why is it entertaining? Not just what happens in it or what's said or how does Shakespeare use language or dramatic effect, but how do these all come together to make it entertaining? So first of all, looking up here with the kind of blue side of things, I'd contextualise it a little bit. This is the point in the play, Act 3, kind of midway, where the kind of comic lines are starting to come together, all the plot lines are developing. And it's the scene where Sir Andrew is trying to persuade Sir Toby, Sir Andrew is being persuaded by Sir Toby to challenge Cesario. So we have got this inherently comic moment where Sir Andrew Aguecheek, who we know is foppish, we know that he likes kind of drinking with Sir Andrew and he likes kind of having a good time and spending his money for that. He's not a man of valour, he's not a man of bravery or anything, and he really doesn't want to fight. But Sir Toby and Fabian are trying to kind of make this duel come about to extend their entertainment. Sir Andrew starts the extract by basically saying he's had enough of being embarrassed, he's not getting anywhere with Olivia. And later in this scene, after Sir Andrew's gone, or later in this act, we see Maria kind of updating them on the progress with Malvolio. So it's really kind of looking at these comic characters and how the comic subplot is coming on. Looking at these ideas then, first thing, in terms of thinking about the setting, so I'm here, and we have this reminder that it's in Olivia's house, and that serves in terms of why is it entertaining because of character, that Olivia's the owner of the house. It allows us to contextualise Sir Toby's position and behaviour because he is a comic character. His name suggests he's comic. He is Sir Toby Belch. A belch is a burp. It has these kind of connotations of excess, hedonism, which is when you are just giving yourself over to pleasurable things, and indulgence, indulging yourself, kind of making sure you're getting what you want and lots of it for pleasure. So, his very character is comic. His relationship with Sir Andrew and Fabian, Sir Andrew Aguecheek, and ague is a fever. Sir Andrew is flushed, he has a fever cheek. He is funny, he's not to be taken seriously as a lover. And yet at the start of this scene, he's going to walk out in an emotional kind of state because Olivia doesn't give his love back. And Fabian is very much a kind of witty hanger-on. He seems not to have the money or status of Sir Toby or Sir Andrew. Obviously, they're both titled, but he's kept around because of his wit and the fact that he encourages them all and spurs them all on. So you've got these three comic characters who are all interacting with each other for their different reasons, and those reasons are starting to come together to create comedy. So we open in Medea Res, and that means that we open halfway through a scene, halfway through a conversation, and it's Sir Andrew insisting that no, he will not stay a moment longer, which is funny because he is at his limit. Everything has been at his expense, and that has been both literally and metaphorically. There are strong implications that Sir Toby is bankrolling his enjoyment, his drinking, his gambling, his kind of indulgence with Sir Andrew's money. right? So, so Andrew has reached his limit. Everything is too much. And the final straw is, Olivia speaking to Cesario in the orchard when, Sir Andrew wants to marry Olivia or wants to court Olivia. So he has finally called time on it. And Sir Toby wants to persuade him to stay. And he uses this kind of familiarity of address. The thou, as opposed to you, is that more familiar firm. So thy reason, give thy reason, come on, tell me why. And this oxymoronic dear venom, sort of, dear poison, it's funny, he's trying to kind of both emphasize his friendship and draw attention to the state that Sir Andrew has got himself into. And insisting that they give their reason is inherently entertaining because these comic characters, they are irrational and unreasonable. They're there for fun in a play which is about madness and wisdom and the kind of, I suppose, the crossover, the tipping point between them. So, Sir Toby saying, come on, give me a reason. It's really obvious to everybody. Sir Andrew is not getting anywhere with Olivia. And Fabian, as ever, supports Sir Toby and says, you must needs yield your reason, Sir Andrew. You have to give us your reason. And first of all, Fabian, his status, he's using the more formal you, which is entertaining because, first of all, we're reminded of the hierarchy. Fabian is the, I suppose, kind of upstart out of them. He's not titled. But, it is Fabian in this scene who is giving all of the advice, who is really kind of stepping into centre stage and doing all of the kind of linguistic stuff, all the jokes to start off with. And he's also kind of saying to Sir Andrew, come on, explain your humiliation, exactly what's wrong. Come on, you can't be thinking of going. So, it's kind of compromising Sir Andrew further. And he kind of does feel the need to explain, and he says marry, which is, emphasising, and also ironic because, it's using the word marry when that's the last thing he's going to be doing. I saw your niece do more favours to the Count's serving man than ever she bestowed on me. I saw it in the orchard. I watched Olivia behave with more fondness, with more kindness towards Orsino's servant, Cesario, than she's ever given me. I watched them in the orchard, and the orchard being a kind of traditional area where love scenes, where romancing takes place. So, Andrew is feeling humiliated and ignored. And Sir Toby sees an opportunity to allow his kind of friend and also his money box to stay around, and says familiarly, did she see thee the while, old boy? Tell me that. Because he's going to set up this attempt to persuade him what, has actually happened. And so Andrew says, as plain as I see you now, yes, of course she saw me. And Fabian realises what's going on and says, well, this was a great argument of love in her towards you. Well, that must mean she definitely loves you. If she knew you were there and she was behaving like that, that is an indicator of the fact she does love you. And in doing that, the audience would know that actually Fabian and Sir Toby are kind of setting up this idea of this Petrarchan or courtly tradition. Now, Petrarch was an Italian writer of a couple of centuries earlier, and he really specialised in the sonnet about unrequited, so unreturned love. And Petrarch wrote many sonnets, all dedicated to his love, the Lady Laura, who didn't know he existed. And as a result, Petrarch's speaker in the sonnets is becoming ill, is pining away, is becoming pale, all because, of his cruel fare, his lady who's ignoring him. And so it grew up as a tradition by this point that, unrequited love demanded kind of great sentimental poetry, demanded kind of illness on behalf of the poor ignored male, and demanded great cruelty and disdain on behalf of the beloved. So they're trying to make this argument that actually, look, if she's ignoring you, of course she's making you suffer. That's part of the game. It'll be making you jealous. But Sir Andrew says, well, Slight, so that is short for God's light, so that's the oath showing, he's really kind of frustrated. And they couldn't swear, they couldn't blaspheme on stage because of the censor. You wouldn't get past it if you said by God's light, so you had to kind of contract it and say slight. Will you make an ass of me? So will you make an idiot of me? Will you make a fool of me? And here he might be referring to the idea of the law is an ass, that idiom, that metaphor, because Fabian picks up in legal terms and he says, well, I will prove it's legitimate, sir, upon he will take evidence from judgment and reason personified, and he will prove this argument legitimate. Of course, there's the kind of slightly ambiguous thing that the it could be, will you make an ass of me? Well, yeah, I'm going to prove that as well. So, again, comic timing is everything in that line. So far we've got, why is it entertaining? We're building up this picture of, well, it's entertaining because of the character and its characters, and it's entertaining because of the situation. Oaths of judgment and reason. So, if we move to next point, we've got Fabian kind of saying, yes, I will personify judgment and reason and take evidence out of them, and I will prove why we're right to say that Olivia is behaving that way out of love. And Sir Toby adds on that, the personified judgment and reason have been grand jurymen since before Noah was a sailor, so since before the flood. So it's that biblical allusion that he's putting in sort of familiar terms, since before Noah got on the ark, it's judgment and reason. They're the people who've sat on juries. See what, whether or not that's a dig at the irrationality of law or not. And we kind of, this whole part is continuing the idea of mistake the behaviour of lovers, misunderstanding people's intentions. So it's entertaining because it's furthering the themes of the play. We're seeing these ideas played out in a different way. So Fabian takes over and he has this kind of longer monologue, and this is him trying to state his case, his reasoning to Sir Andrew in terms of why Olivia's behaviour and indeed why Andrew's failure to behave appropriately means that he should stay. So Fabian argues that she, Olivia, did show favour to the youth in your sight, only to exasperate you. So she's only been nice to Cesario just to make you jealous, to awaken your dormouse valour. And the dormouse was, thought to be sleepy. So it's oxymoronic, he's trying to wake up your sleepy bravery, okay, to metaphorically put fire in your heart and brimstone in your liver. Okay, so all of these metaphors are about bravery, about masculinity, about kind of fighting, about going out there and getting what you want, which, they're all intended, to build up to, go and get the girl, Sir Andrew. And he says, well, within this tradition, you should then have accosted her, and with some excellent jests, fire new from the mint, you should have banged the youth into dumbness. Okay, so actually this is your fault. You didn't play your part in this game of love. You should have walked in, you should have made some extremely witty jokes, excellent jests, that were newly minted. Okay, if something's minted, it's just been kind of cast in metal, that are, red hot off the press. And this would have reduced Cesario into being speechless. So, you missed your part. This was looked for at your hand. Olivia was waiting for you to come in, and you balked it. You shied away from it. You didn't go through with it. The double guilt of this opportunity, you let time wash off. And that's a kind of play on words. It's a pun. Because to gilt something, gilt, is to cover it in gold, to kind of make it all shiny and beautiful. If something is gilt, it's being kind of covered in a precious metal. And this opportunity was double gilt. It was set up there for you. It was twice dipped in shiny, valuable metal. You had the chance to walk in and impress Olivia and humiliate Cesario. You missed both opportunities. And instead it turns to a play on guilt with a you, that, you should feel bad. You let this pass you by, both of these opportunities. The gilding of it, the guilt there, time has washed off. This beautiful metal covering, it's all come off now. And then he takes this watery metaphor and he uses nautical, so sailing, ocean imagery, to extend it, to say, now this water's washed it off, you're sailed into the north of my lady's opinion. So if you think going north, getting colder, actually you've been washed away and you've sailed into her disfavour. She thinks less of you because you haven't done this. And it's gone so cold, you'll be like an icicle on a Dutchman's beard. And that particular Dutchman is a reference to an expedition by a Dutchman which was kind of ill-fated, went into various icy seas, didn't come back. It's a common sort of reference for the time, a joke. So, you'll be like the icicle on a Dutchman's beard, unless you redeem it, you get the situation back by some kind of good attempt, either in terms of bravery or kind of intellect, this idea of policy. And Fabian uses policy in terms of diplomacy, intellect, tact, really kind of using your wits to get back in her good books. Whereas Sir Andrew kind of thinks about this and says, well, if I've got to do it, if I've got a choice between bravery or diplomacy, then I'm going to have to, or politics rather, I'm going to have to do it with bravery because I don't like politicians. So he picks up on that idea of policy rather than being kind of something positive, says this is something negative. This is, what we'd associate more with politics today, that kind of strategic spin sort of shenanigans. And he says, so I'd rather be a Brownist than a politician. And Robert Brown was a Puritan leader at the time. He had his own Puritan sect. And therefore, it's another go at, we don't like people like Malvolio because the Puritans were obviously trying to close down the theatres. So, with Sir Andrew, Sir Toby and Fabian, their love of fun, their love of life, means that, they would really not adopt a Puritan lifestyle well, with all of its strictness and its I suppose, sacrifice. And this whole scene is kind of comic if we look here, that it's all very well for Fabian and Sir Toby Belch to be weighing in, kind of going, do this, you should have done that. They're not in danger and they're not involved. They are observers. They're standing there giving advice from the sidelines. Eventually, when they set up the duel, I don't think they believe it will be dangerous at all, and it turns out that it kind of is. But they're quite happily just giving advice, knowing that they are safely objective observers, and they're doing it for their entertainment, right? So Sir Toby says, well, if you're going to do it with bravery, you've got to metaphorically construct your own fortune, and you've got to do it on the basis of bravery. You've got to take hold of your luck and turn it round. Challenge the youth to fight. Hurt him in 11 places. Olivia's going to notice, and be assured, be confident that there is no better arranger of love in the world who will speak more highly, who will commend a man, who will kind of really praise a man in front of a woman more than a report of bravery. So, we're going down to that kind of courtly love, traditional masculinity. Women value bravery in a man. And Fabian backs up, in fact, there is no way but this, Sir Andrew. This is your only choice. They can see a game afoot, and they are both backing Sir Andrew into a corner where he feels he has no choice other than to take them up on the idea of, yes, I will fight Cesario. There's a little note in the Arden extract, which if you're not using the Arden extract, it's actually very good. See if you can get one from the school library or so. It says, look, there is a proverb about the only way being death. So, Fabian might be just kind of going, oh, okay, duel, death. So this says, will either of you bear me a challenge to him? So will either of you take the letter to him? If I challenge him in writing, who will deliver it. And this is important because he's looking for a second. Okay, so in a duel, you didn't just do it by yourself, you had your kind of best man figure almost, you had your second. So, who's gonna be with me on this? And Sir Toby Belch kind of does a very good job of encouraging him without saying, yes, it'll be me, all right? And he says, go write it in a martial hand, in a military hand. Go and write it, both in aggressive handwriting and be aggressive about it. So be short-tempered and brief. Brief means both make it short and make it kind of snappy, make it aggressive. And he responds, with all of these instructions and imperatives, right, this is what's going to happen. He says, it doesn't matter how witty, it can be eloquent, it can be full of invention, you can say whatever you want, you can mock him with the license of ink. And, says, really, really take advantage of the fact that you can say whatever you want in writing, because you're not saying it to his face. You can put it in writing. Nowadays, you might hear the phrase kind of paper tiger. It's somebody who writes a really aggressive letter, but when you challenge them in real life, they kind of tend to back down. Think of people on the internet who kind of troll others, but, wouldn't say that to their faces. So he says, if, thou thouest him some thrice, so use this familiar term thou, disrespectfully, do it 3 times. That won't be amiss, that won't be out of joint, do that. Make sure you refer to him disrespectfully as thou 3 times, show you don't respect him. And use as many lies as will lie in thy sheet of paper. So, you can tell as many lies as will fit onto the paper. If you're interested in the technical term, that's zeugma, is where the same word is used in different senses within the same sentence. So one time we've got lie as deception, one we've got lie as in lie there. And it says, even though the sheet was big enough for the bed of ware, that was a famous huge bed. I think it's in the Victoria and Albert Museum now. So, no matter how big it is, stick all your stuff in there, set down your challenge, go about it, let there be enough kind of poison or bile in your ink, and write it with a goose pen. Now, if you think of like a kind of, quill pen, she says drawing a feather. Okay, but make sure that the pen you write it in with is going to be a goose feather, because that will show cowardice, because the goose was a symbol of cowardice. So, no matter, it doesn't matter, you can do it like that, about it, get going, And Sir Andrew some productions will have him all fired up, some might have him slightly kind of, where will I find you? Because, Sir Toby Belch is quite happily staying out of it. Where will I find you? Well, we'll come and get you, right? So Sir Toby is again disassociating himself slightly. He's not going to be putting himself at any risk. He wants to enjoy this. So looking at this article then, why is it entertaining? Well, you've got situation, you've got Sir Andrew doesn't want to fight. Sir Andrew wants a quiet and easy life. Sir Toby wants the life he wants, but Sir Andrew is kind of instrumental to that. So he's got to keep Sir Andrew round. Which involves persuading him, that his love for Olivia, that really isn't love for Olivia, is going to, make him go up to this challenge. Sir Toby and Fabian are using Sir Andrew for entertainment. They're getting him all fired up, but ultimately he's on his own. It's comic exploitation. They are using Sir Andrew for their own gain, financial and otherwise, in the same way that they're using Malvolio, in the same way that, Sir Toby is inherently leeching off Olivia as well. There's also another character who's falling victim to love and unrequited love. And how is Shakespeare doing this? Well, you've got the kind of dialogue, you've got the kind of forcefulness and the wit of Fabian and Sir Toby, you've got the weakness of Sir Andrew, and, basically the emotional manipulation, feeling like he's not being made to come over as a man. The idea that Olivia might love him and he's just missed all of the cues, missed all of the symbols. His friends are saying to him, how can you not see this? So they are taking advantage of him. The idea that they're using all of these imperatives and instructions while keeping themselves well out of it. And they've got this kind of parody, this mockery of the Petrarchan lover, the idea that, don't you understand? This is how you do it. Hopefully that helps you. Good luck. Bye now.